Today's class, we're going to talk about the top 5 discussion topics to ask a restaurant owner. Now, we've been giving you encouragement and helping you to get in front of a restaurant owner to have these conversations. We realize that the vast majority of our new referral partners are coming from the credit card side of the industry. And you may not be so knowledgeable or comfortable with regard to what to say to a restaurant owner about point of sale. No doubt, you know your way around a processing statement. No doubt you know how to talk about processing and those things. But let's get into what the point of sale side of the business is, because by this point, you've probably found out that point of sale is drastically more complex than credit cards. Once you learn how to analyze a statement from a processor, you pretty much got it down. But the point of sale side of it is new to you. It's also new information, and you might not be comfortable with what to discuss with a restaurant owner. Well, that's what we're training you to do, because we know that you will sell what you know. So when you get comfortable with the discussion topics that you should talk with a restaurant owner about, you'll be much better prepared and confident to walk in, and then better prepared for the presentation that comes afterwards. So let's get into it. The first thing is, this should be a conversation, not just an inquisition. You're not going to sit there and just drill this person about what their food cost is or what their labor cost is. You may have that discussion, and we encourage you to do so. But this is not something where you're going to have a checklist and check off as you go through. You're going to have a conversation, and you need to make it a conversational type of inquiry, not just a checklist or a bunch of questions that you have to answer. No, it should be conversational. It also should be brief. It should not last longer than 30 minutes. You got to realize you're interrupting the restaurant owner's day, and you need to respect that time. And when you're making the appointment or making the approach, you should say so. You say, I understand that I'm interrupting your day. Can you carve out 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes of your day, and answer some of the discussion points that I need to be better able to serve you? Take that approach, and you'll get a lot better response. You also want to be able to watch and observe. You want to observe the restaurant operation, front of house, back of house, the whole bit. I used to take a stopwatch and actually clock and stop my watch to see how fast the servers were working, how many tables they had, how fast the cashier rang up an order at the counter, how fast the drive-through was, how big was the wait. Generally, in a drive-through situation, you observe more than 3 cars, they generally drive off. That is the industry standard for drive-throughs. So you want to observe the problem areas and bring those to the conversation the next time you speak with the restaurant owner. How fast does the kitchen get the order out? If you're looking at how when an order is placed, if you can shave off 30 seconds to a minute per order, you're going to be much better off when you come to the cost justification portion of it. You want to consult, educate, and guide. You want to consult with them about their business. You want to educate them on places where they could do better, maybe come up to industry standards that are found in the nation's restaurant news. Get up to the standards and help them get to that point. Know what these standards are and help them and guide them to be more productive and more profitable. They will thank you for being that consultant that they need. So the goals. You want to have a set of goals that when you go into this conversation, you want to come out with 5 cost justifiable points for your cost justification that comes after the presentation. Uncover those now, write them down, and you will use those later to help the customer or help the merchant or the restaurant owner be more profitable. with your system. You're going to come up with a solution for their pain points. So you want to uncover those pain points, and you're going to do that through this conversation. You also want to raise doubt in their current system. That might not be so hard if they're really aggravated with what they have, but you want to raise doubt, and I'll explain to you in a minute how you can make that even better. You want to write these answers down. You don't want to put them to memory. You want to start writing. You want to start writing on the paper. The reason is you want to have them getting comfortable with the actual writing process. So when it comes time to sign or approve your paperwork to move forward, I'm using those words now kind of cautiously, because you don't want to say sign the contract. You want to approve the paperwork. So you want them to see you writing down so that they understand that writing is part of this process. Then you want to set up the next meeting. I don't like doing a one call fits all. I just have had a pattern of doing the introduction, doing the survey, talking to them, getting that rapport built up, and then coming back at a different time to do the actual presentation. I like to do it in 2 stages. You may not have that opportunity. It may be a one and done for you. You may have one opportunity and that's it. Do it all at one time if you need to. That's fine. I like to take this opportunity, though, to say and create that anticipation. So I'm going to write these goals down. I'm going to write down their pain points. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to go back now and see if I can come up with a solution that would best fit your operation. And then give them some alternative times for me to come back and set that appointment. But that's how I do it. If you want to do one and done, that's you, that's fine. So starting with number 5, you want to find out what they like about their current system. You're going to have to make sure that you can duplicate what they currently have. If they like a certain way of proceeding through an order, you want to make sure that we can do this, that you can emulate or at least do what they're doing now. You're hopeful that this is the shortest conversation you have with them, that they might not like their system. They may just hate that system. And there might not be a whole lot about it they like. That's fine. If they say, I can't stand it, you're writing down, they can't stand it. Find out what they like about their current system. Don't get nervous if they say, I have a specific feature that I like in this system. You don't get nervous if you don't know that we do it or not. Ask. We will let you know if we do have that feature, and if we don't, we'll come up with a workaround. Maybe there's something we can do within our system to satisfy that need. So if you don't know that we have the feature, go ahead and write it down and then give us a call and we'll help you work through that. But find out what they like about their current system. You have to be able to do this. The next up is what do they want to improve about it? And this is where the opportunity starts. This is where you start gathering the information to really bring home the solution. And you better get ready for a dump. They may just hate that system. In fact, you hope they do. And here's what they want to improve about it. Here's where it's not working. Here's what it's not doing. This is the thing that you want to find out about why they're looking, why they have a need, uncovering to make them a qualified prospect. There are 3 aspects to being qualified, and having the need to buy is one of them. So this is where you're going to uncover the need. Write down what they don't like. Now, if they come up with something that they don't like about their current system that you know that system does, don't correct it. Let them be ignorant of the fact that their current system does not do that feature. Let them believe that. Don't correct it. I've seen that plenty of times where the restaurant owner wanted a specific feature that I knew that system they had would do it, but their installer or that company that did the install did not install it correctly, did not set it up right, and therefore left that customer with a serious pain point. Just take that down and move on with it. You can increase the pain though, when they say that this system doesn't do X, and you're going to go, what do you mean that system doesn't do that? How does that affect you? What does that cost you? What is that doing to your operation? Bring home those extra pain points by asking for clarification with regard to what they don't like about the current system. The number 3 is, what are the hard costs? Now, hard costs there's 2 kinds of costs, hard and soft, right? Hard costs are the ones that they're going to then incur just by having the system and using it in the normal day-to-day operation. What are the hard costs? An example would be, is the system currently under a lease? If so, how long? And then how much? The how long is going to give you an indication of when their itch cycle is going to happen. If it's a 36-month lease and they're just started on it, they got 36 months left to go. And they're really not a qualified prospect. I don't care how big the pain points are. If they got 36 months left on a lease, they're going to pay 36 months. There's not much way to get out of a lease early, is my point. So you got to know how long it is. And then there's the how much. How much can be varied depending upon the product and how many terminals and those things. But there's a sales methodology that goes along with the lease payment. So if they're paying $100 a month in a current lease, that's really, really, really low. Usually lease companies won't do less than $100 a month. Occasionally they will. They like to be in that higher range. But if they're paying $100 a month and your lease is $120, you've only got to sell the difference between the 100 and the 120. You've only got to sell the 20. That's one way of looking at it. But nonetheless, if they are in a lease and they've got a long-term left upon that lease, they're probably not going to be a qualified buyer because they can't get out of that lease. So that's important to know. If they own the system, or if the system is already past its warranty date, they're going to start incurring repair costs. Generally, warranties are 1 to 3 years, 3 years being pretty much the max. You might find one longer, but most of them are 1 to 3 years. Once they come out of warranty, things start to break, and then it starts costing them. See if you can get out of your prospect, what is the monthly cost, repair cost? They may say it's annually I pay X number of dollars, break it down into a monthly cost. And then there's paper and ribbons. And you go, really? Is that, how big the cost is that? Well, in some restaurants that are fairly busy, not just hugely, but fairly busy, they're going to have a case to 2 cases of paper per month and a box of ribbons. A box of ribbons means 6. They may go through that many ribbons and paper per month. So if you're going to put in thermal printers, well, you're going to eliminate the ribbons, the cost of those. If you're putting in a kitchen display system, then the back, you're going to eliminate the need for paper and ribbons in the back. So there is a hard cost savings by bringing in a new system. It then comes under warranty. So the warranty now takes care of the repair cost, and then thermal papers take care of the ribbons. And then the kitchen displays take care of the paper and ribbons in the back. So there's some hard savings with regard to operational costs. Then there's the soft cost. These are things that they will incur as part of doing business, but are controllable by the restaurant. First up is labor cost. The labor costs in the restaurant should be somewhere in that 20 to 30% range. They will be outside that range occasionally. I've seen these double drive-through Checkers and Rallies where they had a goal of 16% labor. It's amazing how many people they can pack into one of those buildings, but they can get 10 people in there working at one time, and they want to keep their labor cost. They wanted at that time a goal of 16%. Not sure they could reach it. Managers tried, but 20 to 30% is the range of which you will find the labor cost to be. Some high, some low, but look for that number. That sweet spot is 20 to 30, and that depends upon the type of restaurant. Fast food restaurants, quick service coffee shops are in that 20% range. The table service are a little higher with that 30% range. Then there's food, liquor, beer, and wine costs. Let's just right now focus on the food cost. But liquor and beer are going to be in the low 20% range for cost. That makes them very profitable. The wine cost is going to depend upon the clientele and the type of wines that they're selling in the restaurant and how they sell it, by the glass, carafe, half carafe, or bottle. There's a lot of variations in wine cost. We're not getting into that. Food cost, however, is going to range between 35 and 45%. Same as labor, it can be outside of that. I've seen table service restaurants that thought they were in the 32% range, and I've seen fast food restaurants that were closer to that 48%. But 35 to 45 is the sweet spot for food cost. Then, when you look at their combined, this is the national average, or what they should go for. The 20% labor on quick service usually equates to the 45% on the fast food side there on food cost. Those two numbers together are less than 66%. The same thing for 35% food cost for fine dine with 30% labor. There's the 65 there. That's generally the guidelines you're looking for. You want to be able to have these numbers so that when we get to the cost justification areas, these come to pass. These will be very, very, very valuable for you in that area. When you come to labor cost, we'll talk about labor scheduling and buddy punching, clocking in early, clocking out late, those type things. And we can save a lot on that labor. If you have the number, then we can help justify the system. Also, there's a processing cost, and you agents, I understand you know how to tear this up, and you understand how to do a justification here. Same thing, do it. But you also want to know, is it a bundled solution? And if so, how long is left on the contract? Because if you're going in against some of our competitors who bundled processing and POS together, you need to know those two factors, because if they have processing and they change processors, they're going to turn off the point of sale. So you need to make sure that this is a smooth transition. You also want to know how much they're paying for that bundled solution. There's nobody else doing it like us, where you have the processing. If they process with Aldelo Pay, they get the software services at no charge. We're very unusual in the market for that reason. So find out what the actual cost is. We've been talking recently about total cost of ownership. Well, that's where this comes in, is what's it cost them? And then what type of contract are they in? Is it a tiered contract? We talked last week about how the market has changed, where the customers are now using more and more card not present. And then those tiered prices are really hitting them hard. So are they in a tiered contract? If so, that's definitely in your advantage. And then are they in a flat rate? And if so, how much is that flat rate? We're seeing now upwards of 4% on flat rates. It's getting up there. Some of these contracts are getting expensive. So you want to find that out, because all of these things that we're talking here are cost justifiable features. Then let's talk about number one. You want to do some business facts. Now, you want to have monthly volume and percent by order type. Order type being dine in, to go, drive through, online, third party delivery services, all those different order types. You want to get a percent of volume by order type. You want to know the number of servers at peak times. This is for twofold. First, if they're doing order and pay at the table, you need to know how many servers, so you'll know how many PAX devices they need, how many handheld devices they need. If they're not doing order and pay at the table, the ratio that you need to look for is 3 servers per 1 terminal. So that's the server to terminal ratio is 3. You could get away with 4 if it's a slower restaurant, but generally 3 servers with 1 terminal is the max that you can get to function easily and smoothly. If they have more than 4 servers and they're a decent volume restaurant, they're going to need 2 terminals. So look for that 3-to-1 ratio. Then there's bartenders. You look at a bar and you start looking at 1 terminal behind the bar, you might have 2 stations, so you can run 2 bartenders. Generally, 2 bartenders can run on 1 terminal, and we can put dual cash drawers. So each bartender has their own cash drawer. If they have more than 2 bartenders at peak times, they better have a big bar for one thing. They're going to need 2 terminals, at least 1 on each end by the prep station. So look for how many bartenders at peak times. Do they do third-party deliveries? That is those delivery companies that come in, pick up the food and go drop it off at the home of the restaurant, home of the diner. Well, do they upcharge? Some of those companies have a 30% charge for their delivery services to the restaurant. So does the restaurant upcharge those? Do they have a separate menu for third-party delivery companies? Both of these things are important to know, and both of those we handle. Do they do online ordering? And if so, what is the cost? Mesa Plus online ordering is included at no charge. Some of these other delivery companies are $100 to $200 a month just for their service. And then they take a portion of the credit cards as well. So this is a big one. If they're doing online ordering, find out and then find out the cost. Have they considered contactless ordering and payments? This is a new hot topic in the industry, and we need to make sure that we're not missing an opportunity here. So ask them, have they considered it? You may take a discussion to educate them. Well, that's your job as a consultant, is to do that. So be ready that when you ask this question, be ready to explain what it is. And then gift cards and loyalty. There are companies that are still charging for gift cards. We have multiple store gift card and multiple store loyalty built into Aldelo Express. It's an easy thing to add. It's a click of a button. But some systems struggle with this. It's good to know. It also is good to know that we can take an export from a competitor's gift card file and import that into Aldelo Express. You're also going to want to know about labor scheduling. They do a labor schedule. Just understand, they do a labor schedule. It's not a matter of if, it's they do. Well, how many employees do they have on that schedule? How do they do it? Is it a manual schedule? And then plant a seed and ask the question, is it possible for someone to clock their friend in? You just want to plant that seed because you're going to have a solution for them. But plant the seed now, get that curiosity going so that they can be ready for that next meeting. Food cost. All right, another given. They take inventory. It's just a matter of how often. Generally, in a quick service restaurant, they count the proteins daily and everything else weekly. In a table service environment, they count proteins weekly and everything monthly, but they do take an inventory. So find out how often it's taken and how are shortages determined. Are they using a spreadsheet? Are they using Excel or numbers or whatever? To how the shortage is determined? Are they manual calculations? And please, I hope for their sake it's not manual. And understand, they're not really concerned as much about the finished waste as they are the raw. The raw is the case of chicken that walks out the back door. They're not so concerned about the misprepared food, things that are done wrong that go to the table and are sent back to the kitchen, and the remake is done. Yes, that's a cost, and yes, that's a problem, but that's not where the huge theft comes from. The theft comes from the cases of steaks that leave, the case of chicken that's misplaced, the chicken wings. That's where the theft really hits hard. The finished waste, which is the food that's been prepared, not so much. That's not as big a factor as it is the whole product that leaves. So how do they calculate their losses, and do they even know? They may not even know. So some additional bonus questions. If it's quick service, you need to ask about how many cashiers they have. Usually it's one cashier per terminal. How are coupons balanced? I even got this question this week about coupons and what do you do with them? Coupons are the restaurant's way of printing money. And that coupon, since it's only redeemed at that brand, at that restaurant, that is their way of printing money for their customers to use at that restaurant. They need to balance coupons like money. And a lot of people don't. And that's a good place to bring up the fact of theft, is ask them, how are coupons balanced? How are money drops handled? This may be a situation where they don't do money drops and they need to. You don't want that cashier drawer opening and some thief looking over around the terminal and seeing a bunch of 20s in there. It's going to cause them to pause and think about, should they reach over and grab it? How are money drops handled? And then how are cashiers balanced? We have a routine that we can turn on, it's a flag setting, where we can do blind balancing, where we can balance the cashier by counting how many pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, halves, ones, fives, 10, 20s that are in the drawer. Just count how many ones you have, enter that in. Count how many fives are there, enter that in. And then the system will add up what coins are in the drawer, add up what the total amount in the drawer is, and then tell them what they're over and short. It's called blind balancing. It's kind of balancing in reverse. Are they a single or double drive-through? That really only matters with regard to manpower, but sometimes you'll have a double drive-through as in two windows and they shut one. They close it temporarily during slow periods. You'll need to understand how that really does not affect our operation. We can run that, not a problem. And then how many prep areas are in the kitchen? You'll need one kitchen display per prep area. And that's why it's important for you to know that. And then lastly, delivery basics. Are they self-dispatch or a dispatcher? Do they have an employee who's permanently assigned just to do dispatching? How are drops handled? Do they drop every time they come back from a run? If so, what is the process on the terminal? How do they do that? How do they account for it? How are drivers balanced? We can do the blind balancing on drivers as well as the cashiers in the restaurant. So that is an option that we can do. And then there's how do they do driver mapping? Is it a printed map? Is it something that they use on their cell phone? How do they do driver mapping? And how do they communicate with the customer that the food has left the restaurant? In our situation, we will text the customer using the same phone that they called in on. So I know I've gone through that very fast. Do not have to worry. I will have the team send this out in a PDF so you can have these questions and go over them on your own schedule. But just know that if you're asking these questions, you're selling yourself to the restaurant owner as an expert, as someone who should be considered, who should be someone that you would want to do business with. So you being knowledgeable about the system, you being knowledgeable about their business will help you provide the better solution than your competitor. Because I doubt very seriously your competitor is doing this step. This is generally the step that is skipped by most salespeople. And it's unfortunate for them because this is the most important step in the whole process. You can be a better salesperson if you do what I just showed you here. That is actually counting, open the drawer, taking the drawer out, and counting how many pennies are there. How many, you don't count nickels by saying 5, 10, 15, 20. You just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 15 nickels. And you got
it.
10 dimes.
So that's where we just put the quantity. There's two $100 bills instead of having to enter $200.
Yes, you enter the quantity of each of the denominations into the system, and then the system says, adds that up and says, okay, here's how much cash is in the drawer. We take out the starting till, whatever that amount is. The system does that. And then that leaves the net cash that's in the drawer. Here's the charges that were done on the side terminal. This is the total amount that was rung up in the system. Does the math and says you're over and short. This really works well from the standpoint of the cashier who's not doing blind balancing will often get to the end of their report and say, okay, I need to have $110.05 in the drawer. And when they get there, they find out they have $100.05. And they'll take a 10 out of their pocket and put it in the cash drawer so that they're balanced. But then the opposite of that is when they find out they should have $110.05 in the drawer and they have 120, they'll take that 10, put it in their pocket. So you really are taking it a chance when you're not blind balancing that the cashier is going to take leeways with making that drawer balance in their favor or not. Blind balancing takes that off the table. Blind balancing is the safest way to catch a thief and to make sure that you're getting the right amount deposited.
Jerry, did you see the question that says, does Express, are they able to send out the delivery address to the driver?
Yes, that is an option that the driver can do or the dispatcher can do. Is it will text the address of the deliveries, plural, to the driver for them to then use their own phone and device to do the mapping.